Hello and welcome into the SorareData Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined once again by Sean Newsham, PSU Fans 2, today to talk about the dreaded transfer window. Sean, we actually got some transfer news a few weeks ago. Nothing was official back then. And it was based off of the cover boy of this show, who was Daley Blind, who is somebody who was near and dear to your heart. And there was all this talk about where he was going. I don't think we even have an official yet. We pretty much think we know where he's going to end up. But I kind of wanted to talk about a few things that Blind brought up because a lot of card prices kind of move based on whether people think somebody will be successful where they're going, but also kind of the utility of their card based on where they move. So if you have guys who are challenger players, and then they get a step up to a Big 5 league and they're now champion Europe players, maybe they're not as good because they won't play as much. So there's a bunch of that stuff that goes through into the things that we consider during this time where the transfer window is open. But I think there were a lot of people who were surprised at our initial responses of Daley Blind possibly going to MLS. And we were like, oh, he's dead. And everyone's like, he went from one of the best defenders on the platform at Ajax, at least during his peak. He's going to a much, what many believe is a much worse league. How could he not just dominate? And I think we need to start there, even though Blind is probably not going to MLS now that I've gone through all of that. But I know you have a Daley Blind, at least the super rare, because I used it for the thumbnail. What is your expectation for Blind? We'll start there, and then we can move on.
No, we got to start a different place, Laird. So I just typed in Daley Blind on Twitter because I was just curious if anything solidified or anything happened. PSV is the name that's popping up on Twitter right now. Nothing seems like it's imminent, but there's 30 different tweets talking about how PSV should go after Blind. But sign me up for that one. But the reason why I think people maybe are confused with what your thoughts are on Blind. People are very heavily oh, MLS is terrible. If you go to MLS, you're going to score well and dominate the league. And it's partially true for some players. Those players are attacking-minded players that are looking to score because typically the defense is relatively poor in the MLS. Even if we look at Insigne, and Insigne was relatively terrible, I would say, to end the year. But if you look at his games for Toronto, he had 77, 61, 80, 93, 48, 86, 86, 45, 92, 57, 35. So
where are you talking about that he was terrible?
He wasn't very good for Toronto. Insigne was not very good for Toronto. No, I'm saying, but he was still good from a Sorare perspective.
Oh, okay.
And he missed pens in those situations too. So this is what you get with him not being very good at Toronto. That's why the upside on him is pretty substantial for being in the MLS. The issue is that as a defender, especially Daley Blind, Daley Blind produces a mass amount of points by having final third passes and just passing back and forth at the edge of the box. That's where Daley Blind gets his bread and butter. The issue is that the MLS is completely even over the whole league. Obviously, you have better teams and worse teams, but for the most part, there's not a dominant team. For example, Austin last year was one of the best teams in the league, and they were terrible, and they didn't hold much possession. So when you look at Daley Blind, a person that really benefits from generating a lot of final third passes and a lot of passes into the opposition half, a lot of long passes into the opposition third, a lot of box entries. Blind does that by dominating possession. He's not going to have that in the MLS. So that's the issue with going to the MLS, especially as a defender. I don't think it will be as good for him there. And then the other option that we heard was Antwerp. And Antwerp would be okay in that, I think he would be okay at Antwerp. But the issue is Daley Blind was a 65 to 70 type player. And at Antwerp, maybe he'll be a 60 type player. So he might be good, but he's just a lot worse than what he was at Ajax. So the issue is that so much of defender points is by just dominating possession and really just generating points from that. And Antwerp's not a team that's going to just dominate possession because they're not far and away better than everyone Ajax is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that some people at least missed was, or didn't put as much emphasis on, the fact that he was coming from like an ideal situation and then going somewhere that was just simply not ideal. Like it was, regardless of like the team, like if you go from the best team in the Netherlands to the best team in MLS, like theoretically there shouldn't be much of a drop, but just the way that the leagues are and how a lot of the players play, it's just very different situations. And it was kind of funny to me that there weren't even specific MLS rumors. It was just like, oh yeah, he's going to MLS. And there was no thought to us. We were like, well, if he goes here, he could be as good as, like, there was just zero landing spots in Major League Soccer where you're like, oh yeah, he'll still be the Ajax Daley Blind.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we kind of like, you know, not ignore, but like the reason why Carlos Gil is so good is because there are a lot of his season doesn't overlap with the European season. And so like he's the best player in the game for a few months. And you don't really get that if Daley Blind happened to go to MLS.
I mean, that's not totally true. The reason that Carlos Gil is one of the best players in the MLS or in the game is because he's one of the best players in the game. Like, yes, it is helpful that for like 3 months he's the only like dominant force that's like there, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he's probably still a top 10 player overall on the platform, period, when everything's running. So it's a bit misleading. Oh, the other option was Real Sociedad, which like that's total depth. If Glenn goes to Sociedad, woof, that's a rough one to have happen. But
wasn't that where Szymanski was supposed to go?
I have no idea. I don't keep track.
I'm pretty sure it was. I think I sold off of that news.
To be fair, I mean, Szymanski's been terrible, so you probably didn't even do that poorly from that. But like, I don't see how you can go to Real Sociedad and not be like
dead.
Woof. Like it's gonna be bad news for Blind at Sociedad. So
yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely don't want that option. All the other options were at least okay, but the issue is like I wouldn't have bought Daley Blind had he not been on Ajax, right? Like Ajax is the issue. Is like that's where you want your people to be. Mike Baston comments that new for 2023, Laird has brought up Carlos Gil before I brought up Carlos Gil. So we just got to remember that in the year of 2023, Laird was the first person to say Carlos Gil. Big underdog that was, but it did come through.
Cash those checks.
Yeah, so like I don't know, like it's just for me the transfer window. I think people handle the window poorly, which is what I mean. Most things on the platform, like you talk about, and you talk about like how most people handle it, you're going to say they handle it poorly. I think the transfer window is no different. Like one little piece of info, and people just bolt to these things. Like I'm going to pull up. I know you talked about it because I saw you in it. I do not know where this person went, and you were quoted as saying he sucks, but Isco was rumored the other day to go to the MLS.
Oh yeah,
Isco. I don't know what happened to his price point. It could have not moved at all. I have no idea. I have not looked at Isco. Of course, Fripp is in there too. Fripp's listening. Like I was with this guy for the MLB All-Star game, and like someone said something about a player, and Fripp was like immediately buying this person from Pavel Trader every time. I was looking at it, like literally Fripp just like blasts at any piece of news, which I guess that's probably better than like not reacting to any news or like reacting to only some news. Like Fripp gets his ass in there. Like, but as you see, 5 days ago, Isco was 0.099. Literally the other day, he was 0.226.
Yeah, I mean that 0.009, 099, excuse me, is an outlier.
Yeah, but I mean, it was an outlier, but he was coming down because he's been terrible.
I mean, he's not good in this game. He barely played. I mean,
he could be good in MLS. I actually disagree with you on that, by the way. I think he could be good in MLS. Most likely he's not, but he could be.
Sure. I mean, anybody could be.
Yeah, like, and the reason I say that is because, like, if you look at like Isco's starts, he has a decent AA game typically because he takes a lot of sets. And I can't imagine he'd go to the MLS and like not have sets. Like if you sort by like starts, he has like 43 starts. His AA is like 8.2, or not starts. If you just look at if you look at starts, but then you like ignore the zeros that are just artificially put in there. But yeah, like you look at this, like 13A is pretty decent for an attacking mid. So I think Isco's could be okay in MLS. Like I'm not going to go out and buy one right now, but yeah. So
he signed somewhere.
Isco the same type as Carlos Gil. I wouldn't say the same type, but like they do share a lot of similarities. So
is he
there's
older than
definitely
Carlos
some
Gil?
merit to the idea that like Isco could become Carlos Gil. I think so. Like, I'm not going to go out there and buy it right now, but like you could. But so the thing is that I wanted to allude to, and why I think people handle stuff poorly. Anything pops up as a option, and people just flock to it, whether it's good or bad. There was one the other day that was I thought a bad transfer rumor for the player. I forget exactly who it was. And like literally his price just tanked off like 30% like that day.
I mean, there's one example that always comes to my mind when we talk about how much of an effect transfer rumors have on Sorare prices. And yes. I only think of all of this because of John Nellis.
Correct.
But like if you look at this Soleil graph, like June 23rd, like where was he going? Torino?
No, that happened like at the end of this. Or yeah. So Torino popped up. So people
and everybody's like, okay, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
And then my favorite was Nellis decided, I think Nellis had the super rare, right? So he was like, I'm not going to sell it.
He didn't sell it.
He did not, right?
I don't think he sold
it. Yeah, he didn't. So he doesn't sell. And then he starts with what everybody who has guys like this, he starts with like the positive propaganda. And he's like, oh, the Torino manager is like a center back whisper. He could still be great, blah, blah, blah. But then he doesn't move.
Yeah.
And the price bolts right back up.
Yeah. And
here we are. Like, so like, I don't know. It's just, like, I think if you are able to take the risks like Fripp does, and you're like, I'm just going to buy all of them, all of the transfer rumors, like I'm sure some will pay off and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like there's like amazing overreactions to transfer rumors when we all know that like most transfer rumors don't end up paying off.
Well, I mean, let's go look at Szymanski. Szymanski's a good example. Szymanski had everything was a very poor rumor. And I'm pretty sure Szymanski's price just plowed off. And then he got like the best move possible. Yeah, so like you see like Szymanski.
You see my sale, and then he gets the best move possible.
And then he just plows into stuff. So like, yeah, like obviously if you bought Szymanski at like 0.5, awesome. That's great. Like that's what you want to get. But like the issue is like, let's say you bought Szymanski at like 1 point. I mean, I guess people waited until he moved before like the spike, and that's what we talk about. The real things I think are the best way, in my opinion, to handle a transfer window. This is the best way I think you can handle a transfer window. One, you buy players that it's like they pretty much can't have a bad mood. Perfect example of that right now for me is like Josko Gvardiol. Like, I don't see a move that really is awful for Gvardiol.
Yep.
Because he's just in a spot where like he's at Leipzig, which is a pretty dominant team as it is. He's 20 years old, probably the best center back prospect in the world, if not the top three. And like realistically, the only way he can go is go up from there. Like it's similar. Like it's going to be different, and it's kind of going to be odd because I don't think his current landing space is going to be great. But like Enzo Fernandez, he's at Benfica, but like anywhere he was going to go from Benfica was like a top 4 team in each league, effectively. So like, yes, he's going to Chelsea, and that's definitely not my favorite of the landing spots that Enzo Fernandez could have ended up in. But it's not like it's not like you have a Szymanski who is like a top end guy in Challenger Europe, and then he's going to end on Torino. But like Chris, I have this guy. So
Vinny Souza,
like you sold Szymanski because his rumors were all terrible, and you held Vinny Souza because his rumors were all great, and then you just got buried.
On both, yeah, I got buried on both.
And that's like same thing with like Christian Thorstvedt. He went to Sassuolo, like, and you see like this. So like as you see, Vinny Souza was getting just elite level rumors. Everything was great around Vinny Souza.
Yeah, what was the last one? Was it AZ or was it PSV?
Vinny Souza, everything was like great. It was like Bruges.
Oh, Bruges, yeah.
It was Bruges, Benfica, PSV. It was like everything. Everything was like elite level for Vinny Souza, and then dead. And goes to Espanyol. And like you see, just plowed off. So like to me, the way that I think is a better approach is buying the guys that you don't think is going to die. And Nepenthes just brought it up. He's like, Enzo's price is tanking because of Chelsea. It's true. Enzo's price is going down because people are aware that Chelsea is probably the worst option you can go to, I would say, of like the bigger end teams. Like you don't want him at Chelsea. You would much rather would have seen him elsewhere other than Chelsea. But it's still not like the end. He's not going to like a bottom end team. He's not going to like Burnley. Like if Burnley was still in the Prem, he's not going to like Nottingham Forest, right? He's going to a top end team that maybe they'll turn things around and become good again. And Wedeman just said there are certain archetypes that you have to look for that also are less affected. Enzo is one of those archetypes. Like Enzo going to Chelsea, Enzo is going to be a very similar type of player. As like when you have an attacking mid, if you're an attacking mid or a forward option and you just go to Espanyol, a good example for that is Taddy Castellanos. Just went to Girona. No, where did he go?
Yep.
Girona, and he just is terrible. Not terrible, but he's just like, they don't score. If you are a guy that is reliant on getting decisives and doing offensive things, and you go to a team that is significantly worse than most of the teams you're going to play for, you're not going to be that good. But anyways, the way I like to approach the transfer windows and like sort of the rumors, if you can, I try not to deal with the transfer stuff that often. As Laird knows, like I just don't really sell tons of guys if I don't have to. Is that you buy guys that are like in a spot where they're like maybe not as good, but if someone gets moved, they could become way better. So, for example, on people we've been talking about here, Cody Gakpo went to Liverpool or is going to Liverpool. Joey Veerman is probably going to get bumped up from like what he's been to like probably 10 or 15 points better than what he's been. So if I look at Veerman's 1E, still U23 eligible for this year, and his L15 is like 57. So if Cody Gakpo does not transfer, I can expect Joey Veerman to remain a L15 of 57 type player. So like I'm pretty much getting what I want out of him at that price point. But with Gakpo leaving, it's pretty realistic that Veerman becomes like a 65 to 70 type player. And that's like number one U23 mid type player. So like you can just buy a guy like Veerman, hope that the transfers play out positively for you, and this guy becomes a lot better. And if not, worst case scenario is he's like the same player he was that was already okay, and his price isn't really baked into like Gakpo leaving. Like in my opinion, Gakpo leaving isn't priced in on Veerman at all.
I agree with you on that one.
And like another example of that was like Wijndal. Like I probably should buy one honestly of Owen Wijndal because like they don't.
I can't believe you don't have one.
Like I don't see how Wijndal's not going to start at left back, and like you look at him and he's not going to be as good as Daley Blind, and he's already proven that he's not going to be as good as Daley Blind. But like, there's not any other left back really that's competitive with him. So you pay 0.45, let's say like 0.45 or whatever for him. It's not the end of the world on a guy like Wijndal because he's going to benefit from Blind going. Like Blind going means he now has like no real competition, which is why the floor is up a little bit. But if you can buy guys that maybe will become more productive or more beneficial, it works. So like I actually have all these, so like it's not really a relevant situation. But like if Carlos Cuesta or Mark McKenzie for Genk left, which I don't think they're going to leave in this window. They'll probably one of them, if not both, will leave in the summer. Will probably leave. Mujahid Sadiq will likely be the replacement that comes in and would play for him. Although there's been rumors about like Sadiq leaving, or like there was before the season started. But like you can find guys like that where it's like, okay, if so and so leaves, who's the beneficiary? And then you look and you're like, all right, Mujahid Sadiq is a 22-year-old center back who is 0.1 ETH. And then you look and you sort through his games with Genk in starts, and he's got like multiple 90. He has a 98, 100, some big AA games as well. Ben Salt, and he's 0.1. So like it's like realistic. You could get a guy like this that all of a sudden becomes a starter, and if not, like you're sitting on a 22-year-old center back who's on a decent team that produces good young players could be worse than that. Like, are you really upset if you spend 0.1 ETH on this guy and you have to sit on it for a little bit? Like, Sadiq hasn't played except for like the last game where he got that spot start. His price dipped below to like 0.07. So even in like worst case scenario where like Sadiq wasn't in the squad for like months,
Yeah,
he was 0.07 and you lost like 30% of your value on him. If he gets a string of starts, he's probably like a 0.2, 0.25 type player.
certainly if he's starting. Yeah. Does he have another? Yeah, he has another year of U23 after this.
So Jonathan and Jeremy, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, Laird, because I disagree with both of them. But Jonathan said Veerman to get 10 to 15 points extra. He disagrees. He thinks PSV will look weaker without Gakpo. Surface comes in and said, I agree with Jonathan. I think PSV offense takes a big enough hit without Gakpo that it washes out any increase in short passes for PSV. So there's one reason why I disagree with both and think they're both totally wrong on this. And it doesn't matter if PSV is slightly worse as a team. And Laird, why do you think that is?
Just simply that Veerman gets a bigger piece of the pie and they're still one of the best teams there.
Exactly. Veerman goes from 0 sets to 100% of sets. If your team's worse, it doesn't necessarily matter if you sit there and you're looking at Veerman going from no sets to like a significant amount of sets. Like, I think people misunderstand how important sets are, because if you just take sets, you're probably adding 6 to 8 points a game on like a team that gets a few sets a game. Because each set that you take, if you connect with someone's head on a corner, you are effectively generating like 3 points. It doesn't even matter what happens. You just hit your guy's head and he hits the ball over the bar. That's like 3 points. If he's close enough to the goal, it's like 5 points. And then not to mention, you're also, if you're taking all the sets, you're more likely to get on stuff. So like Gakpo leaving makes Veerman a far better player in theory than what Veerman has been in the past. It doesn't mean that always is how things are going to go. If someone else comes in and takes sets, then that person might be the beneficiary of Gakpo leaving. But if you look at the PSV lineup, I don't really know who's going to come in and take the sets other than Veerman. Like, I feel like it's just going to be Veerman for the most part taking sets.
Didn't Philip Max take them like a long time ago? Like on that side?
He did, but I mean, they rotate Max out, and then like, I don't know, they've had some issues. I feel like Veerman's going to take sets. If Veerman doesn't take sets, obviously I'm wrong here, and Veerman's the worst player. So Jonathan said Gakpo wasn't on sets, was he? Laird, would you like to scroll down to the corners taken? I'm assuming Gakpo's taken a good amount of stuff.
Let me see.
He's at least taken penalties, and I think Veerman probably will take penalties.
Looks like Veerman's taken.
Oh, Veerman's been on sets. All right, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and Surface and Jonathan are correct. I was under the impression Gakpo was taking more sets than he's been taking. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have totally misjudged what the situation is going to be with Gakpo gone. Maybe Veerman is not as much better than what I thought he was. So maybe I completely misjudged the situation. I didn't know Gakpo was taking that few sets. I don't own Gakpo, so like that's how I don't know exactly what that Gakpo sets shares right. Because like I didn't own Gakpo and I won Veerman.
Surface is saying he did take almost all corners, so maybe our
maybe that's wrong. Like maybe
this is wrong. Yeah.
Like I was under the impression that Gakpo is taking stuff.
So did I. He definitely took them a lot for the Netherlands too.
Yeah, I know he took stuff for the Netherlands. I just find it hard to believe that Gakpo wasn't taking corners for PSV. Now I'm curious. Would RotoWire have that information, Laird?
They would for like the
Champs League.
Yeah.
Or like Conference League and stuff.
Or what? Yeah, whatever they were in.
Were they in UEL? Yeah, they were in UEL.
Yeah, he took he took them.
Okay, so yeah, so like Gakpo's on set. So like, all right, Surface just said Gakpo took 84 corners, Veerman took 8. So yes, so okay, I was right. That's good. I'm glad. Like I said, I don't follow PSV as much because I don't have as many pieces of PSV as I used to have. So like, let's pretend.
Oh, I wonder if Gakpo didn't show up on that page because he's already been transferred to.
Oh, you know what? That's probably right. You're probably right. That's probably why. Because I don't.
He's not showing up anywhere here.
Yeah, that's okay.
That makes sense.
Oh, anyways, yeah. So, so Gakpo's gone. Yeah, a couple people said Gakpo.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone who pointed that out.
This is how much I don't follow along with the transfer stuff as much. Like, I did not know the Gakpo to Liverpool was fully complete. Actually, I did. I saw him. I think I saw him with a jersey hang up. Like,
I was
obviously,
gonna say you probably saw like the hidden picture when somebody in the background.
I
just
see
like
too much
snapped it,
stuff.
and
I
you're
don't
like,
know.
oh,
Like
it'll
Enzo, like I don't know if Enzo is complete. Like, it seemed like people were talking like Enzo is completed today. I just don't care. Like when it's completed, it's completed. It just doesn't really affect me tons. But so yeah, so like Gakpo not taking sets and now Veerman coming in and taking a further majority of the sets helps. Like, yeah, maybe they'll score less goals as a whole, but it doesn't matter in terms of AA game for Veerman if they score less goals. If he goes from, let's say, 10% of the set share, which he was on, to 75% of the set share, I would expect like a 6 to 8 point bump in Veerman's scoring going into the rest of the year.
And even if they win fewer corners and fewer set pieces without Gakpo, like if Veerman is still getting a bigger chunk of that, like it makes a big difference.
It's huge. And that, like, people just, every corner you take is probably worth like 2 to 3 points in equity. So like 2 to 3 points in equity is huge. Maybe not 2 to 3, maybe it's like 1 to 2. But like if you take 7 sets and you get 1 to 2 points in equity on 7 sets and you call it like 1.5, that's like a 10.5 point bump that you get in a given game. So obviously it's not going to be as evident as some might like, but I'm glad I wasn't wrong on Gakpo. I couldn't believe Gakpo hadn't been taking a set.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
that makes no sense.
Yeah. No, that's right. But I think it does also like include this point that when you're looking at all of these transfer situations, like obviously if somebody leaves a club and they leave after they had a very big impact on the attack, somebody has to fill that void. And
Correct.
at least with PSV, the expectation is that it's Veerman. And I think the only thing that probably keeps his price from like really accelerating is just the fact that he loses U23 this summer.
Yeah, but like, is he even that much? Like, let's pretend he's a 65 guy, right? Is he that much worse than other options in Challenger?
It doesn't matter. Like people.
No, I know. I agree with you that people act like it doesn't matter, but it should.
Yes.
Like let's go look at midfielders in Challenger and see like what his comp's going to be. Like he's going to be the best guy.
Let's see. So like L40, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, 8.
And like
Evander's gone, so that moves him up a little bit. Bunch of guys in Russia.
Yeah, so Teddy Tuma is like, I guess, a relatively similar comparison. And Veerman's sales have been, like 0.85-ish, and then Tuma is like 0.8-ish. So like hypothetically speaking, Veerman and Tuma are very comparable, except for Veerman has U23 eligibility and Tuma and Towns like the same price. So like, I'm not saying Veerman should be like 3 ETH because he has U23 eligibility, but like when he tails off, he becomes, let's hypothetically say he becomes Teddy Tuma. I think he becomes like Bakasetas. Maybe like in between them. But if you look at the two and you're like, all right, so when he loses U23 eligibility, he should be the exact price he is now.
Yeah, I think the other big thing we're not talking about is that there's certainly a chance that Veerman also leaves this summer.
Yes, totally. And
that could be Real Sociedad.
Correct. And that totally is valid. Like that's the valid answer in regards to Veerman, is that Veerman could dump off and transfer somewhere where he's very poor. And that's definitely something to compare. So Blue Tomatoes asked, why does Evander show here when the MLS transfer? I think it just hasn't been official because the window's just opened. So like, I think people have agreed to terms with him, but the transfer isn't fully official. That's why I don't pay attention to this stuff as much, because like all of a sudden I just see a guy on a different team. Like when I see a guy on a different team on SorareData, that's when I know the transfer is official.
Yeah, I don't think Evander is official yet.
I don't think Evander's official, even though it's like official.
Is he? I can't even.
I have no idea.
Let's see. Yeah, I think like they announced it, but it's not. Oh, actually, I guess something on MLS's website, or no, Timbers.com has it. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why he.
No, well, honestly, it's probably just Opta. Opta's probably slow moving.
Maybe.
That's probably
Pending a physical and all that good stuff. That was a while ago. But anyway.
Well, Opta's slow moving, especially if it's not like a major league or a major player. Like Opta's really slow with moving stuff like that. So I could totally see it just being an Opta being slow type of thing.
Yep. So that would be the reason why he still shows up here. I'm trying to look at some of these other guys.
Kachu. I saw something yesterday about Kachu being like the possible Enzo replacement at Benfica. Which would be interesting because we already know how good of a player Kachu can be.
And we know what you can do in that position thanks to Enzo.
Yep, exactly. And he could take even more sets and different stuff as well. So like it's definitely in play that he would be impactful. So I'm definitely interested in that. But like, I mean, yeah, look, I like Tijani Reinders. I think he's really good. But like, should he be that close to Veerman? I don't think so. I think Veerman should be better than him. I think Veerman should be priced more than him. Whereas, like, I guess Reinders' sales haven't really happened recently, so he might be a little bit lower. But like, is Veerman 10% better? Probably. I would much rather have Veerman than I would have a Tijani Reinders.
He lost sets, right, when Carlson came back?
Yeah, he lost sets. He's still good. He's just not as good. It's the same thing. It's like the exact reverse.
Here's how important set pieces are.
Yeah, so like this is a great example, right? We can show the set pieces when Carlson was out, and then what happened to Reinders when Carlson came back on. And you look through the game logs for Reinders, and like you can just tell. Let's see. All right, let's look at Carlson and see when Carlson was out. So Carlson missed game weeks 275 to 308. So let's look at Reinders' game weeks 275 to 308.
Hold on, I think I can see if this will work. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so like you see, like Reinders, this is a great example. It really is, because it's the same type of situation. Because like Carlson back is a much better situation for Alkmaar than when he was out. And as you see, like he probably was like 10. Well, he's probably more, but a lot of that's like goal type of situation. But I wish there was a way we could graph between a certain subplot and look and be like, this is what the average was when he was playing. Because I want to see like what he averaged when Carlson was out. And like if you look at this, like I'm assuming his average when Carlson was out was around like 70.
I was gonna say it's basically these initial blue dots.
Yeah, it is. So I'm
half of which are above 70, if not more than half.
Probably be around 70, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Without doing the math, and like his average with Carlson back
probably higher.
Probably in the mid to high 50s.
Yeah.
So like so Reinders was a 10 to 15 point change from Carlson being out to Carlson coming back. So if we see the same type of situation, I'm glad you came up with this one because this is a really good comparison. Like they're literally the same type of situation where like Carlson is a left winger / attacking option that has sets when he plays, and Reinders is like that center mid that's a bit more free flowing, able to go forward, that has sets when Carlson's out. So I think this is a pretty good example of like what could happen to the Veerman situation without Carlson. So I'm glad you came up with this. I think it's a good comp.
So the expectation is that these blue dots here with the oranges on the bottom, that's what Veerman turns into. Correct.
So I think it's relatively realistic that we could see a 10 to 15 point type of jump. And if Veerman bumps 10 to 15 points, that puts him as like the top U23 mid. Not even top U23 mid, it puts him as like one of the top mids on the platform.
Right.
So like it just is a realistic outcome that Veerman is just very strong.
Yep. And not going anywhere, that we think, at least
in the January window. Could totally leave in the summer window. So yeah, no, that was great. That was a great comp, Laird. Good job.
The other one that I wanted to talk about, because I had a very firm opinion on what I thought the outcome would be at first, and then I had a few people start to slightly convince me that I may have been wrong. But there were rumors of Papu Gomez coming to MLS, not to like keep harping on MLS. And I put that move closer to the dust outcome than other people thought. And
Okay, how much of that did you attribute to you just think he's dust?
Papu go like right now,
Yeah,
like if
like
you're
this
dust
is
somewhere
dust.
else. Yeah. I think it contributes for sure.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like a lot of that attribution from you is that you just think Papu Gomez is a steaming pile of dust. And that like him going to MLS does not matter because he's just that dusty.
I think that's a little unfair, but it's probably closer to the truth than not.
Because Papu Gomez, like again, someone mentioned earlier when we were talking about Isco, Papu Gomez has a lot of tendencies and characteristics of Carlos Gil. So, like in theory, he could play that type of role and fit that type of area. And I think that that's realistic. The issue is with Papu Gomez, he's 34, turning 35, and he hasn't looked good for a couple years. It's not been like it's been a little bit since he's like looked capable of doing stuff.
Yeah. The one comp that somebody gave me there that made me think like, all right, maybe I was a little harsh was that he could be Maxi Morales.
Yeah, sure. And I think that was totally realistic comp. Like in theory, Papu Gomez is a better version of what Maxi Morales was. In theory. Because he's played at a higher level. He's been a better player for longer in his career at a higher level.
Yeah.
So it's realistic. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm trying to remember where Morales was before MLS.
And he was, let's see. I mean, he definitely wasn't at a higher end.
Atalanta is where he spent most of his time.
So he was at Lyon, and then he was at he was actually literally at the place where Papu Gomez was at Atalanta.
Right. That's
Papu Gomez
Lyon in Liga MX, not Lyon in Ligue 1.
Correct. But Papu Gomez was way better than what Max Morales was at Atalanta.
Right.
Like way better.
Yes.
Yes. So Jeremy, this is where Laird's getting that he's dust from. And Jeremy asked, he deleted it. Jeremy deleted it and asked if you saw Papu Gomez during the World Cup. That is definitely playing a part. Oh, it came back in. That was weird. It popped out and then came back in. And he's like, it doesn't always translate. Did you watch Gomez in the World Cup? And that is definitely where Laird is getting some of his dust input from.
So, I mean, it just like solidified the opinion that he's dust. It's not like I saw him in the World Cup and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize Papu Gomez was dust. Like,
no, it was like before
I saw him in a lineup and I'm like, how is he in a lineup? That guy is dust.
You would have said he was dust, but you weren't sure. But then once you saw those games in the World Cup, you were like, holy, this guy's bad.
You're like, I was like, yes, okay. I'm glad that
then you're just like, this guy, let's get him out there.
So yeah, I don't see him coming into Major League Soccer and like dominating. That's all.
No, I mean, I think the best player in the league is probably Ricky Puig. Ricky Puig was really freaking good last year.
Do you think he leaves in July?
I have no idea. Like
there's no way he's in Major League Soccer to stay. So like,
yeah, but why come to Major League Soccer anyways? Then he could just be like, I like LA. I'm done. I'm good.
I don't think you make that decision at 22.
He made that decision at 22.
No, I mean to like stay after. Like if somebody calls and they're like, hey.
To be honest, I hope that he goes back to Europe and is really good because I think that would be a pathway a lot of those type of players would take. And they would come over to the MLS to follow that sort of like trajectory. And I think that would be good. But like, yeah, if we look at, I mean, it's not even like his stats. Like this isn't from a Sorare perspective. Like if you watch the games last year, this is for, I don't give the like actual analysis of like how people looked. Like if you watch the games last year, he was really freaking good for LA, way better than everyone else on the field. Like you can just watch the games and be like, damn, this guy's way better than everyone else on the field.
He's too good for Major League Soccer.
There's very few people that you watch the games in the MLS and are like, damn, that guy's way too good to be on an MLS field, and he was definitely one of them last year.
Yep.
Because you don't really see like none of the defenders are really like that good. Like you don't see any defenders that are that good. So it's like offensive players and like even like the Carlos Vela types. Carlos Vela did not look like he was too good for the MLS last year. Like Gareth Bale did not look like he was too good for the MLS last year. Same with
Insigne too.
Same with Insigne. Like Puig looked like he was too good for the MLS last year. Like he was damn good last year when he was playing.
Yeah, totally agree. There was another. It wasn't Enzo. I feel like there was another one that recently happened that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember what it is now. But I don't know. So you tend not to sell cards often. Like you sell them when you kind of need to.
I sell rewards that come in that don't make sense for me.
Right. Do you ever get like the Daley Blind one is bad because I don't think he's going to be like his price isn't going up going to Antwerp or Sporting Kansas City. But like, do you ever sell into the news or consider it at least?
Sometimes, but like some of the times I won't because it's hard to get alpha players. So if the news pops and it's like, in theory, this guy's going to become the alpha player, it's hard to sell them because it's very difficult to get alpha players, and it's difficult to get U23 alpha players. Like if you hear so-and-so is going to Bayern to be the striker, you're like, all right, I can't really sell on this hype regardless. It's like the Darwin Nunez situation. Like, can you really sell Darwin going into Liverpool knowing he could put up like 35 goals and be a good champion Europe option as a U23 player? No, probably not. Then you sit there and you hold Darwin Nunez, and then you're like, man, this guy can't score a goal. And you're like, I wish I sold into the news. But if Darwin Nunez popped off and went nuts, all right, well, then it's a bit more difficult to like you would have had if Darwin came in and was doing like what Haaland is doing, which obviously like they're different players and Haaland's way better, but like it's not unrealistic that Darwin couldn't have came in and had a really hot streak to start the year. All of a sudden you're looking at like a 3 or 4 ETH card that you have no chance of getting unless you already own it. So you did it. You literally did it. You can talk about it with Julian Alvarez. What's your thought process behind it? And like, why did you not sell into the news? Did you consider it? Where were you at with that?
It's funny that you mentioned Alvarez because I was actually going to bring up Luis Diaz because like Diaz was one that actually worked out like immediately. Like he was a January transfer. And he's one where when the deal was announced, his price, like, I think it tanked. Let's see. It was like, we got to go a little further actually. So like in January, like he was going up and then the deal happened at the end and like everyone wanted out. And then he absolutely smashed his face off and everyone was like, oh, this is what happens when you like, I think they started looking at this outlier and they're like, oh, wow, like this is what can happen with like Alvarez and Nunez and like other guys going. And yeah, Blue Tomatoes brought up Timo Werner, although I don't think anybody was overly excited about Werner. But and Diaz obviously dropped because of the injury, I'm assuming. So
correct.
I think like I didn't sell Diaz because I was actually using him. Alvarez, like I kind of knew he was not going to start right away and like be great. But you kind of, I don't know if we talked about it here or somewhere off of a stream, but it was kind of like, given the injury history that Haaland has, like if he happened to miss like 4 weeks and Alvarez starts for him, like he could bang some huge scores just being being in that situation as like the striker for Man City. And so there was kind of this like safety in his price, and not that his price like hasn't dropped because I mean
it's dropped, but it's not dropped from like I paid 6 months ago around 1.1. So like I had a similar idea, and I think we definitely talked about it off stream. But like the idea with Alvarez was that like he is versatile, so he could play in like left wing role, he could play at striker, he could play in a few different options. He was like one injury away from possibly seeing like lots of minutes for City, and with Haaland's injury history, like you said, like they're not going to have Haaland play every single game all the time, anyways. It's just not going to happen. And then also, you're going to get starts. Like you're going to get starts from Alvarez against possibly lower end teams where they're just resting because of Champions League, which carries some value. So I bought him up before the season started. I've won 4 cards with him, which feels pretty good considering that's his graph. So like I feel like it was a reasonable buy with the upside that is factored in at the long term. Also, like I didn't have to do it though too. Like I'm pretty sure the game against Copenhagen we knew he was going to start. I'm pretty sure the other game against Copenhagen we knew he was going to start too, and then they picked up a red early, and then that game was kind of ruined.
Yeah.
But like so you look at this like he's playing games against lower end teams in the Champions League. That's like those are spots where you can just rip out a 90 when there's not that many teams that are going that can put up that type of production. So for me, that's like part of why I bought him. But like I looked at him like I don't really think he can go down tons, which we've seen the platform has tanked off a bit, but he's only gone down like 0.2 ETH in value. So he's gone down like 20% when a lot of other players have gone down like 50, 60%. And there's been no real change with him, and he hasn't even got an extended run in.
Yeah, I mean whoops, that's not where I wanted to go. Yeah, I think one of the things that it's tough to look here just because the World Cup threw it all off, even though he had like World Cup utility by the end, and even played really well for Argentina as you know. Anyway, so I don't know. That was like I probably should have sold into it just because like I wasn't in a position to like I wasn't playing Champion America or excuse me
I think
playing Champion Europe, and
I think I told you should have sold in his height in like in January, February, because if I remember correctly, you weren't really competitive in the U23 like rare pro scene at that time, and it was going into like MLS only season, and I was just like you should really sell because you just didn't have the team to like use it to take advantage of it. Like as you see here, like you've won cards with it, but you've not really won anything significant.
Not recently,
despite him being like a full-on alpha. Because if you look, you're using him in D4 all the time.
Well, I mean, this was literally 100 game weeks ago.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like if you look,
I mean, I basically never used him when
you
he was
never
advanced.
using this card in Rare Pro. Like if we look at this, like you are not using this card in Rare Pro.
Well, I wasn't playing Rare Pro back then.
But that's why I said like if you weren't using him in Rare Pro, like what's the point? Actually, here's an interesting stat for you. So I actually looked this up about 2 to 3 weeks ago, Laird. So let me see if I can find it because I don't know if I noted it to you, but I was curious and it came up with a discussion with someone else. Let me see if I can find it. It might take me a second. Okay, I found it. All right, so I went through, and at the time it was like 40 game weeks. It was like 39. We'll just call it 40. And I checked. We would both say that I have a pretty strong U23 core that like is good for like multiple options, right?
Sure.
So I have it's 37 game weeks. So 37 game weeks, Laird. How many rewards did I have in 37 game weeks in U23 Rare Pro, and how many like tier zeros?
30 rewards and 9 tier zeros.
You think I'm way better than I am. 17 rewards and 3 tier zeros. I also had like
I just know what you like to talk about, and so I wasn't expecting you to not have success.
No, but so that, in my opinion, I'm getting a card every other week in U23 Rare Pro, and I had a lot of tier ones, a lot of tier zeros that are all really productive cards, including a win. I won it once. Okay. How many cards did I win in U23 Super Rare during that game week or during those 37 game weeks? And my U23 Super of the 4 U23 competitions is my weakest competition.
Weakest in what sense? That your
like my
U23 Supers aren't great?
U23 Rare Pro, U23 Rare, and U23 Super is probably the weakest of the 3. So how many did I get, and like how did I do in that situation?
Like 10 rewards and 2 tier zeros. I don't know.
Well, there's no such thing as a tier 0
or tier 1. Sorry.
10 rewards, 5 tier 2s, 0 tier 1s. Okay. U23 rare, 37 game weeks. How did I do?
37 rewards and 11 tier zeros.
15, and I only got 2 rewards better than a tier 2. In 37 game weeks, I got 2 tier 1s. I never got tier 0 in U23 rare. That's just how hard the rare competitions are to get stuff.
Yeah,
so I
mean, there's no doubting that.
What?
I don't think anybody's doubting that.
No, but that's what, like, I thought it was a good like breakdown and like idea to look through things and come up with how efficient like they are. And I was shocked. Like I figured like, oh, 37 game weeks, I probably did pretty well in rare. I didn't. I only had 2 tier 1s. In 37 game weeks, I had 2 tier 1s. And I was like, man, that's pretty shit when I have really good U23 lineups. So anyways, I thought that was a good like indication of like the difference between rare, rare pro, super rare with like my gallery that is good in all of them. Obviously, I'm putting my best cards in U23 Rare Pro, which I mean goes to indicate those were my best results. But I was very shocked in 37 game weeks. That was all I could return in U23 Rare. When my U23 Rare situation is like way better than what most people's would
have. I'm surprised you were surprised. The jump from U23 Rare to U23 Rare Pro is much bigger than any other division.
But the cards I'm running in U23 Rare are good. They're like damn good cards. But you can't really get tier 1s and tier 0s.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like there are lots of people who have very good U23 rares, and that's where they play them because they can't make the jump to Rare Pro. Because U23 super rares are really hard to get.
I understand that, but I'm playing like Vinny Jr. in U23 Rare and getting like nothing. I'm getting like low end rewards. I was surprised it was as low as it was in terms of like higher end rewards. Like I still got a good number of rewards. They were just mostly tier 2s and tier 3s.
Yeah, I would have guessed you got better rewards in Rare Pro because you have the super.
That wasn't the point. My point wasn't like that I got better rewards in Rare Pro. My point was more so like how poor the rewards were for me in Rare.
That's what I mean. That's what I meant. That you would like got better rewards, like that you were more successful in Rare Pro.
I knew I was going to be more successful in Rare Pro. I was just surprised that I didn't have more success in Rare with the cards I'm running in Rare. Because the cards I'm running in Rare are better than what most people are running in Rare.
Obviously not.
No, they are. That's what I'm saying. It's just hard to get high-end cards.
Yeah. I don't know how we got there from the transfer window, but
Blue Tomatoes was calling you out for it, Larry. He said this competition fits the topic and laughed at you. Because you're the host, so it's your responsibility to keep us on task. So clearly that was on you.
Can we talk about Gil now? There we go. All right. He's not going anywhere.
Can't have a better topic than that. Yeah, speaking of Gil, Giacomo Vrioni, his price point is pretty high right now.
Well, he was another transfer that popped. I think I bought one. Yep. These are all on the same day. I literally should have just flipped on the same day and didn't.
You beat a lot of people to that, though.
What's that?
You beat a lot of people to the limited. You were like sitting there just refreshing, getting that shit in.
And then I didn't sell, and now he's below where I bought him.
Blue Tomatoes agrees, Laird, that it's your fault. I apologize, Laird.
For the conversation change?
Yep.
It must be your first time here. If anybody in chat has a transfer rumor that they want us to discuss, feel free to throw those out. And yeah, since I'm getting all this crap for the topic change, if you guys could hit the like button, since I know you guys like topic changes so much or off-topic conversations, please hit that like button on the video. So the World Cup has been weird because it's like I basically stopped looking at my cards. Like not that I like forgot who I have, but like I was like looking recently. I'm like, oh, like I have an Enzo limited, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to use that card anytime soon now. And I was curious, like how much people are looking at their own galleries and being like, maybe I need to get out of the situation. Jeremy brought up the Bayern goalie situation. I believe you are not taking that job. Is that correct?
Fortunately, Bayern has not come calling. Ajax has, so we'll see if I end up at Ajax. They want to lower the age a little bit. come under. But yeah, the Bayern situation was weird because people were like all about who's starting right now, Ulreich. People were like all about Ulreich at the start, and it's just like I don't see a situation where Ulreich's the starter. Like I just can't really see how Ulreich ends up being the starter.
Somebody just won him as like a tier 1.
Well, his price shot up as soon as the situation happened. He probably is priced around a tier 1, to be fair. His price is like 0.25, which is probably a low end tier 1 at this point. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah, so Mike Baston talks about, let's talk about that one a little bit. So Ajax goalie situation has been rumored to be Rulli. And I just don't understand Rulli as the option for Ajax. Because, like, for me,
a really weird rumor.
He just, like, is this is nothing against him. Like, I'm not, it's whatever. Maybe it's goalie, so the goalie doesn't matter. Like, the Dutch goalie that was, like, one of the best goalies of the World Cup was almost quit soccer, like, a year ago. It had 0 starts to his name. It's a position, whatever. We know my opinion on goaltender. My bad. I have to make sure I stay on brand, Laird. And discuss the goaltenders. But Rulli's just like, he's a guy that's like a mediocre champ Europe goalie that like doesn't consistently always start, and he's 30 years old. Like, I would
he's just he's a guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy. Like, I would have thought like Ajax would bring in like someone that's like Dutch. Like, it's not even Dutch. Like, it's just such a weird buy to me. I'm not like it's probably fine. Like, it doesn't matter. It's goalie, but like this is a guy that's like never been a consistent starter in the last 3 years or something for a okay side in Champ Europe, and he's 30, turning 31. Like, it's just a weird buy. Like, you'd think they'd either want someone that's like cheap, that's like a Dutch goaltender that is in the Dutch league, that is like cheap. Mm-hmm. Or because I'm assuming they're gonna have to pay a decent amount for Rulli compared to what like you might have to pay for like a Nopper, and then
they have to pay for him. Period.
Correct. They have
like
to pay for him,
that alone seems enough to like not do it.
Or they or you get someone in young. You would have just been Gorder in this situation. You just play a young guy and you let the young guy grow, and then you all of a sudden have an Onana that you can get money for. So I don't know. The Rulli situation, just of all like the transfer rumors we've heard in a while, like that one is the weirdest rumor for me.
Yeah. What were the latest Bayern ones? Sommer? Jan Sommer?
Sommer, which that makes sense to me. Jan Sommer makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that as a goalie to Bayern makes sense. Well, it was also like someone said, during the World Cup, Livakovic was rumored. But like Livakovic, they want Bayern typically has a sweeper that can come out and play the ball like Neuer did, and that's not the type of goalie that Livakovic is. So it was like a complete differential in options. So Blue Tomatoes just said Trapp was the option today.
Oh yeah, Nubel was going to be recalled.
I mean, I guess Trapp makes sense because like I don't think Bayern's looking for the next it goalie, right? Like I think Bayern's looking for that guy that like can come in and cover for the next few months.
Like the expectations that Neuer is the starter next year, so they're not looking for
what Bayern should have done. In my opinion, was they should have made that move for Van de Voort. The move that was made for Van de Voort, I think Bayern should have been the team that made that move for Van de Voort. But I think that would have made the most sense to me in the long run.
Too late now.
So Blue Tomato says, why should Trapp do it? He's a legend of Frankfurt. Money. I assume they would pay him a decent chunk to come for 6 months, and then he can just go back to Frankfurt. I don't know. It's goalie. Like, I would just play Ulreich, personally. I would just say, like, all right, we're going to run Ulreich. If Ulreich's that bad, why did you even have Ulreich to begin with as your backup? Like, Neuer's like ancient, so like, why is Ulreich your backup if you're not comfortable with him running half a season?
His limited score chart might be my favorite chart I've ever seen.
Who, Ulreich's?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That is
at least
astonishing.
I don't know. Goaltender rumors are weird.
Well, I mean, the biggest middle finger graphs we see are usually goalies.
What? Oh yeah. Like these.
It's just
I don't know. I'm just, if I'm one of these teams that I don't know, like if your goalie's 36 years old and you're not comfortable with your backup running 6 months, like what are you doing anyways? And why is your backup 34 years old? Like if your backup is 34 and you're not comfortable with him running 6 months of the season, why was he your backup anyways? Why was it not like a 22-year-old that you could start building towards the future? Because if you're not comfortable with him run 6 months of the season anyways, then like why not have a young guy?
Right. So I want to go back to this Ajax situation for a second, because it seems like everybody wants to jump at whoever is going to replace Pasveer. There's no like definitive decision that Pasveer won't even just keep the job. Like,
I don't think they're going to bring someone in that is like an established goaltender and he's not going to start.
No, I agree with that. But is like, do you even need to prioritize getting an Ajax goalie? Like,
No.
Are the scores that we see here for Pasveer because he's Pasveer or because it's the Ajax goalie situation?
It's
like he's been pretty god awful in some spots.
It's because he's the Ajax goalie.
Right. So like, do we expect that Rui or Noppert looks like this? Like, are these the scores we think they get?
I mean, I don't think it's really going to be impactful. Like, I don't think he's going to make much of a change. Like, I don't think that he's going to come in and be, if he's better, it's because the defense is better. It's not because
right.
Like, I'm not, like, Pasveer's not been good. Pasveer hasn't really made any save. Oh, so Quinny said Barkas to Ajax. Let's sign me up for that.
So, yes, please.
So sign me up for that so that De Keyser can play.
Well, I was gonna say, or if De Keyser to Ajax, who cares? Yeah. One of them, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm all in on all that stuff. I think that's a sign me up spot right there. Like, I'm down.
This is it.
FDK Ajax, even better, Quinny. Even better. Just plow him into Ajax. But like, seriously, like, why is if you aren't willing to run Gorder at this point, like, why is Gorder there? And I know the rumors that Gorder's leaving, but like, why is Gorder there if you don't trust Gorder to start?
And it kind of felt like that in the beginning of the season.
Yes. Well, and then Gorder had that shocker in that cup game to PSV, like right before the season. And it was awful.
Oh, John Andrews there. That is the answer, right?
Yeah, there. I don't care about
Maximiano to Ajax.
That's a Laird rumor. I don't care about that rumor.
I need that one big time. Maximiano to anywhere would be really.
I think you meant Tyler Miller to Ajax, right, Laird?
That was not me, but somebody said it in chat.
Well, yeah, you don't need that one anymore since Tyler Miller's like.
Yeah, Tyler Miller's already starting, but Maximiano I could really use to literally anywhere that he will start.
No,
which was supposed to be Lazio.
I think that there's definitely, like, I don't know. To me, not having a younger goalie is okay. Mike Basson said Solar to Ajax. That one I would buy. Like, Ajax doesn't seem like a team that's going to bring in a 30-year-old goalie to me. That's why it's just so weird. Solar to Ajax makes sense. That I buy. Like, I could totally see that one happening.
But it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you take a guy who's like, he's young, sure, but he's like literally not playing. Like, you're Ajax. You need somebody who's been playing.
True. But I mean, no one's been playing because we've been on break for so long.
But he hasn't been playing, like, even when the season's on, right?
Well, at this point, like 2 months off is the same as like 3 other people. Amon said Strakosha. Like, I just, it's very weird to me that Ajax wouldn't have a young starting goaltender. Like, someone like Gorder does make sense. Like, an old guy does not make sense to me at Ajax. Sonny Stevens to Ajax. Like, Gorder, to me, like, if you don't like what your goaltenders are doing, let Gorder play for 6 months, because who cares? Yeah, Odysseus would have made a bit more sense. Odysseus is a bit younger.
Wasn't that like really close to happening?
Supposedly. I think there was talk of it like happening and it just didn't get through or something. But like, Odysseus is a bit younger, like he's 29 instead of like 30, and he's not a champ Europe goalie. Like, I don't know. The whole thing is, just interesting, to say the least.
I mean, we're going into January where 2 dominant teams in their domestic leagues that are really important to Sorare need goalies.
They don't need goalies. They're like, PSV have Pasveer and Gorder. If that's not good enough for you, then like, why were they your goalies to begin with? Like, if you are not happy, all right, let me rephrase this. If you are not happy with Pasveer, fine. But if you are not comfortable going to Gorder, then why is Gorder there to begin with?
Right.
Like, Gorder should have been gone. Because if you don't think he can come in if Pasveer's dead, you don't trust him. You're not going to have this guy be your goaltender. Mike Baston, it's hard to gather dust when you are dust. Like, Keylor Navas, if we talk about people that look like dust at the World Cup, Keylor Navas definitely fit that. Like, that first game was painful to watch.
Yeah.
Mike of Pompeii is enjoying the chat. He is new to Sorare. Welcome, Mike. Glad that you are enjoying this stuff. Navas to LMX makes sense. Like, Verbruggen, if you're like that young, here's the thing, right? Like, Van Krombrugge got injured. I have no doubt in my mind that Verbruggen would be the starter for Anderlecht for the remainder of the season.
Yeah.
Like, if Van Krombrugge was out for the rest of the year, there would be no discussion of bringing in a new starting goaltender. It would be Verbruggen for the rest of the year.
Yes.
If it is not Verbruggen, then you sell the guy, because you're basically saying this guy's not someone that I trust to be my keeper. So then you sell him. So like,
don't Ajax also have like 10 really young?
They
like
sold
Setford, and wasn't there?
It was Ratsy. It was Ratsy, and then Setford.
Yeah.
But like, they sold Ratsy. I think he's at Utrecht, actually, Laird.
No.
I'm pretty sure Ratsy's at Utrecht. Yeah, he's at Utrecht. He's Utrecht's third right now. I have him. That's why I knew that. I don't have a Setford.
That's dangerous.
So like, he probably will maybe become the FDK backup. He's been a sub. He's been a sub in most of their games. So like, he likely, I would assume, is their backup to De Kaiser if Barkas was gone. But it's just, I don't know. And another thing is like, why? I don't know. It's just a weird situation to me. Like, if you're not going to trust a younger goalie to come in and start, like, Blue Tomato says, just play Stecklenburg again. Might as well. It's not like he's any older than Pasveer. Once you're past like 33, everyone's the same age. You're just old.
I actually want to go back to Quinny's comments. Would you rather? You have De Kaiser, rare and super rare, right?
I don't think I have the rare.
Oh. Would you rather, like, if one of those two is going to Ajax and one of them becomes a starter at Utrecht, where do you want De Kaiser?
If he moved, he would be the starter at Ajax?
Yeah.
I want him at Ajax.
Why?
Because
Ajax he scores that much better at Ajax?
Ajax is the better team. They still have they still have midweek utility as well. Yeah, the upside of being a much better team is still at Ajax. Like, okay. I think. Maybe not. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's.
I mean, you're just moving into that like 2-save upside situation.
Yeah, but I don't. If your goalie gets clean sheet, that's fine. I mean, Barkas has had some really damn good games. I just want the goaltender for me. Like, obviously, like, I want AA. Like, I'd rather have my goalie get AA than not get AA. But like, realistically, if your goalie gets you 63 points, you're fine. You're happy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I mean, if my goalie gets me 63, I'm not gonna be like, damn, fuck, that was awful. I'm like,
you know who's not getting 63 a lot recently?
Yeah, but even Pasveer has gotten 60 enough this year.
Those days are over, Sean.
He's had some turds.
One.
Laird, the 300s and stuff were still this season, buddy.
No. It's all in the past, Sean.
It's unfortunately not all in the past. That's all this year. All of those games are this year. So like, half the time he's still gotten 60 plus.
Yeah.
So like, I would rather have my guy at Ajax than I would rather have my guy at Utrecht.
I mean, there it is. L15 of 27.7.
Gotcha.
At least with Ajax. That hurts.
Yeah, I just want my guy to have a chance at a clean sheet. Like, it's important to just have your guys live for clean sheets and keeping it clean. Because if your guy keeps it clean, like, that's what really matters, in my opinion. Like, that's what you're hoping for. Like, obviously you're hoping for more. You're hoping for you're hoping for 80s, but I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Goal. I just want my goalies to start. Especially, I want a U23 Super goalie that's in Europe that is not Gaetan Kook, and that's all I care about. I think so. Here's something that I think people. This is a whale problem. So hashtag whale problem disclaimer here. If you have a boatload of cards, like you have just a boatload of cards, and like let's say you have 25 super rares in the Arriva Divisi. I can't play the Arriva Divisi U23 Rare Pro anymore after January 31st unless I have a super or goalie there if they play an island game week. So like currently, the only European starting goaltender I have is Gaetan Kook. Only European starting U23 super rare goalie I have. If he were to get injured, I cannot run a U23 Rare Pro or U23 Super Rare lineup until Asia and America start. And they all have to line up still. So it's just a thing where like I forget who I was talking to, but like I think and this goes for rare too or limiteds. I mean, it goes for anything. At this point, if you have a significant amount of cards, you really want to have a goaltender in each league. Because if you don't have a goaltender in each league that fits what the requirements are that you want to run a team, you can't do it. Like so for example, like if the Belgian league does not play in the next month, let's hypothetically say January 31st ticks over, we're into the new way that everything's working and the super lineups come. Right. And I would run Mbappe, Veerman, Reinder super rare, Cuesta super, whoever, whatever. I can't do it if I don't have the goalies, right, in the rare department. And then, like, let's say the super rare department, I don't have a goalie. I can't run it. So it's just important to have goalies that are spread out across different leagues if you have a significant amount of guys in that league that are fitting a certain narrative. Like, even Champ Europe the other day, like, I only had one goalie for this upcoming game week in Italy, I think, but I have a lot of cars in Italy. You know I have a lot of cars in Italy. So, like, I only had a Tatsuranu that I can run. So, like, I think next game week I have a Milinkovic-Savic Super that's just sitting there because I can't use it because I don't have enough goalies. Also, Sorare Viking makes
a more money, man.
Just to clarify, this is an important point. Sorare Viking says have the backup keeper from the team of your starter. If the team that you have a goalie on and you want to stack that team or you want to have significant exposure to that team, you should almost always have the backup if they are a reasonable price. Because if you do not have the backup at a reasonable price and they get injured and then you have to spend 3-4x what that was, it's a real kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
So like if it's a reasonable price goalie, like you should almost always have the backup of that team. If you are, it's not as important if you're not really like stacking a team, but like I have a lot of gank players. So like for me, it's important to have a gank coverage. So like if Van der Voort gets injured, and then I just have like 15 gank players and they play like an island game and I don't have a goalie, I just look like an idiot. So I think the back was Layson. I have a Layson because of that. I bought a Layson for that reason and brought him in for that reason. So I think it's a good point. You've been burned by that before because I think you used to not do it.
I still don't do it.
It's like Tatsuranu. Like I have a Mike Mignon and I bought a Tatsuranu. Although there's been rumors of transfers coming in to Milan, which I would assume would be to like replace Tatsuranu as the goalie for the next X months because Mignon keeps getting injured. So like, but Tatsuranu was like 0.05. Like, why not have his backup if I need to have Milan set up?
Yep, I think at that price makes sense.
Yep.
We've fallen off the rails here, so I'm going to cut us off. Thank you to everybody who has joined us live. If you guys could please hit the like button on the video, it's really helpful. It looks like there are many more people currently watching than have liked the video. So if you guys could please do that. If you could also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do 2 football shows, a week. We do the strategy show now, and then Sorare Andrews later in the week. I will be with Andy later this week, probably Thursday, I think, for Sorare Andrews. And if you're into the NBA, we've got the regular NBA strategy show that will be Wednesday afternoon East Coast time this week, back with the Sorare First Pitch guys. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good luck with all of your players in this absurd transfer window time. And yeah,